Hello everybody, it's Friday and I'm live. I want to share with you some information that I've recently learned. I've been reading this great book, 10 to 25, The Science of Motivating Young People. And it just came out. It is full of the latest research about teen brains and how we can best make a difference in their lives, how we can speak to them in a way that will actually make a difference to them. Maybe you've noticed that as your kids enter puberty, all of a sudden they fight back. They don't like to be told what to do. And many people say, oh, it's just rebellion, or that's just disobedience and we need to punish it. I have some great news that's going to help you with your kids and things that I actually have been using. I didn't realize what they were based on, and it's absolutely amazing. So I just want to share with you today what I've been learning. So, you know those campaigns, the Just Say No to cigarettes that we all remember when we were kids? Just say no. And more recently, they have the DARE campaign in schools. Did you know that those campaigns actually increased smoking rates among teens? They didn't work. They didn't work then, and they don't work now. In fact, in 2007, the Association for Psychological Science warned the US government that the DARE program had a potential to cause harm. It hasn't stopped schools from using it. They still think this must work. If we just tell them how bad it is and what they should do, they're going to figure it out and they're going to do what's right. Doesn't seem to work that way. You've heard it. You might have said it yourself. Kids just don't care. Kids these days, they don't care. They're just entitled. They're too sensitive. They jump to conclusions. In fact, most of us have been told that our teens' brains are absolutely incapable of weighing the consequence of behaviors. This has been the result of a study by the MacArthur Foundation, and that was in 1995. But this idea goes back to ancient Greece. It goes back to Plato. He just looked at what he saw and he said, teen brains are just crazy. They can't make good choices. In fact, he said that we should just put them all to sleep for until they're 23 years old, and then things would be better. But if we did that, they wouldn't learn the skills they need to be the adults when they were brought back. So even if that were possible, it's a really bad plan, Plato. All right, so the MacArthur Foundation did research that finished in 1995 that using MRI scans showed or seemed to show that teens' prefrontal cortex was not working as well as an adult's. Or that's what they understood the findings to mean. But what if that's not true? What if puberty is not a design flaw? Because God doesn't make mistakes. What if the teen years are another stage? Just like infancy, just like toddlers, just like young adults, just like older adults. What if in the teen years, they have needs and motivations that are different than in other age categories? Seems reasonable. We can't just say to an infant, look, you were just fed, forget it. You should know better. And the way we talk to our teens is going to make a difference too. But how often have we thought, I told them the consequences and they still made the wrong choice? It seems to actually validate this idea of the incompetence model. the model put forward by the MacArthur Foundation. However, more recently, Galvin and Ron Dahl did further research. In fact, they did a parental nagging study. So this is right up our alley. We understand nagging. We feel like if we don't nag them, they're not going to do it. They're not going to get it done. Right? How many of us micromanage our kids and we're on them? Did you finish your math? Did you finish your math? Did you finish your math? Why haven't you finished your math? If you just sat down and did it, it would be done. True. But is that working? Is that working for you? Are they becoming more competent? Are they becoming more independent? Are they growing up and showing independence and self-management, self-discipline? Nagging never leads to that. So what happened in this nagging study is parents wrote out and recorded a script where they explained what they didn't like about their child and how they wish they would act. And one group wrote it just off the top of their head, the way they would talk. And the second group were guided to write it in such a way that it had a neutral tone, it had no accusations, it didn't diminish the control of the teenager, and it had no controlling demands. The fMRI for the first group of people, I want to read to you what the first group of people recorded for their teen to listen to. One thing that bothers me about you is you get upset over minor issues. I could tell you to take your shoes from downstairs. You'll get mad that you have to pick them up and actually walk upstairs and put them in your room. You get mad if I tell you your room is a little dirty and it just needs sweeping and dusting. You get upset if your sisters want to do something that you don't agree on, but 3 of them do, and you don't want to do it. You get upset too easily. You just need to calm that down. So my first question is, if someone spoke to you that way, how would you feel? I wouldn't be feeling too good. That feels like you're accusing me and you're putting me down and you're insulting me. It's not the best way for us to move forward and make results with our teens. In fact, the fMRI showed in the areas where emotion is seated in the brain, it showed very intense feelings. They were probably angry, frustrated, whatever. Now the thinking planning region, pretty much nothing. They weren't planning to do what they were told. They weren't thinking about what they could do to solve this problem. And the inferring meaning region, you know, the mind reading region of the brain, where we listen to someone's words and we ask ourselves, now what are they really saying? What's really going on for them? That wasn't lighting up either. They're not wondering, I wonder why my mom is so upset. What could I do to solve this problem? I wonder what she really means by that. This seems to imply the incompetence model, right? They're not planning a solution. They know what the problem is. Why aren't they fixing it? It's easy. Pick up your shoes, put them away, keep your room tidy. These are easy solutions that could stop the nagging, easy solutions that would make mom happy. The next group that had a recording in a neutral tone with no accusations, didn't take away the control or autonomy of the teen, the scan looked exactly like an adult. They discovered that there's nothing wrong with a teen's prefrontal cortex. their purpose and their motivation is different. If you nag and you accuse and you can make controlling demands, your teen is not going to respond to you. So what we have happening in our world is what David Yeager calls the adolescent predicament. So our kids enter puberty. It starts, maybe age 8. Those hormones start happening, but definitely by age 10 or 12, they enter puberty. And by 14, they're like well on their way in puberty, right? Their brain is telling them, hey, you're an adult now. You have new motivations. You have new goals now. Your goal is to fit into society. Your goal is to get esteem. Your goal is to get respect. Isn't that how we get ahead in the world? Isn't that what we want from our teens? For them to want to get ahead, to want to earn the trust and respect of others? Their motivation in the 10 to 25 years is absolutely to have experiences where they can test their autonomy, where they can gain social status, and where they can make a difference in the world. They want to leave an imprint. That's what I want my kids to do. I want them to go out in the world and I want them to leave their stamp, leave their mark. The teen years has a different motivation from what we feel. We might look logically. We look at the facts and we say, okay, because of all these facts, this is what I should do. Teens say, well, I know all the facts, but that's not going to earn me any status, respect, or help me change the world. Help me make a difference. So count me out. No, you can't tell me what to do because I'm not a kid anymore. Adults don't get told what to do. So let's go back to the Just Say No campaign. Why did that not work? Shouldn't it work? Shouldn't it make a difference if we explain to teens what the problem is, what's going to happen if they smoke? Smoking is just a good example. It's very easy. We have history to show us what works and what doesn't. And the reason it didn't work is because just saying no is a command. Look, I know better. I'm the scientist. I say this is a problem, and you better stop. Teens say, really? Well, you know what? I'm probably not going to get cancer right away. And right now this is working for me, and I'm going to be the boss of my own body. They see the Just Say No campaign or the DARE campaign as an insult to their autonomy, their ability, and they feel disrespected. So they prove their autonomy by refusing, pretending, or arguing. During the Just Say No campaign, smoking became the cool, rebellious thing to do. So what does work then? We know what doesn't work. Goodness, do we ever know what doesn't work? There is a really good ad campaign that actually worked. And Boguski was the owner of an up-and-coming marketing company in Florida, and he wanted to actually change the trajectory and not just play into the tobacco producer's hand. He knew if they used the ads that the company wanted, if they used ads that said, smoking causes cancer, it makes your teeth yellow, and it isn't sexy, that teens were going to smoke anyway. They already knew that smoking caused cancer, and it's not going to happen tomorrow. And they already know that it makes your teeth yellow, but it's not going to yet. And It isn't sexy? Well, if it's working, it's working. And they said, no thanks, I'll make decisions about my own body. That's what he knew would happen with that campaign. He looked at a teen's need for autonomy, to feel that they're contributing in the world and making a difference. So the Truth Campaign started in Florida. The Truth Campaign in the very first year reduced smoking in middle school by 19% and in high school by 8%. And those don't seem like huge numbers, right? But let's consider they were going up every single year. The Truth Campaign had ads showing teens attacking the duplicity and manipulation of a tobacco industry. Had ads that showed teens standing up to adults and saying, what you're doing is wrong. You can't market to teenagers. You can't do that to us. You can't pretend that you don't have harmful chemicals in here. You can't pretend that you're not trying to get young children. One of the campaigns actually had tobacco executives walking through a hospital to a dying person's room to thank her for smoking. And all the way there, they're looking at everyone around, trying to find somebody to replace that woman who is going to die. And their eye lands on this young 14-year-old girl. This was teens making a difference, and it made a difference for teens. So smoking likely isn't our problem, right? But what about schoolwork? What about hygiene? What about keeping rooms clean? There are so many ways we could change the way we talk, and it's going to make a difference in our homes and to our teens. So I want to just go through a list of a few things that are really going to help you as you navigate these years. And the first one is really hard. The first one is to loosen the control. We have to give our teens some autonomy. We have to give them space to be more adult-like. If we assume that they can't make a good decision, and if we are nagging them, that's not going to work. Another thing is to stop using the word should. You should do this. So instead of telling, you should, or go do, we should ask, give the opportunity. Do you think you could help me out and just go and wash the dishes? That would be a really big thing for me. Or, washing the dishes is one of your weekly chores. Do you think that you could just take care of that so it would just be a load off my mind and I don't have to think about it anymore? I know that you have a lot of things on your plate, but if you could figure out a way to make that work, is that something you think you could do? They're choosing. When a teen chooses to do something, they're much more likely to follow through than if an adult tells them what they need to do. We need to honor their status. We need to point out their competencies. They are good at so many things. So many things. Look for the good things. Validate them, honor them. Give your teens opportunities that your younger children don't have. They're teens. Their body's telling them they're adults. The problem is, in our world, that happens at like 14, 15, and we keep them in this holding pattern between childhood and adulthood until they're like done university before they can get like a real job and take care of themselves and have the responsibilities of an adult. And they're stuck there. It's time that we started taking away the teen years and starting to move from childhood instead of into teen years into young adult years. And allowing them more and more autonomy so that they can make decisions. we need to validate the negative experiences they have. We need to understand that, you know, sometimes they'll make a decision and something is going to go, it's not going to be good, and they're going to feel bad about it. And instead of saying, told you, well, you knew this was going to be the consequence, we can say, man, that must feel really difficult. I know I've made some poor decisions sometimes, and it's really hard. But I know you can do it. I've got your back. And the last thing is to presume agency. We need to acknowledge that they can make the decision for themselves. And once they make a decision, we're going to support them, we're going to root for them, and we're going to have their back. So, do you have questions about this? This is a big departure from the things that we have been told for years and years. I'd love to answer your questions. I'm working through this book. If you want this book, it's called 10 to 25, The Science of Motivating Young People by David Yeager. And it is an excellent scientific read for people who are interested in that. So the takeaway from this is it is an absolute myth that your teens are not able to make wise decisions on their own. It is a myth that you need to keep nagging them and pushing them or they won't do the right things. What we need to do is honor their needs, and they will be able to be motivated, to be autonomous, and to make decisions that are going to make a difference, that are going to move them forward in their life. These are the years where, yeah, we do give them a safe place to fall because our world does have these teen years. But you know what? We can still honor them as adults. We can still treat them the way we want to be treated. I want to thank you so much for coming, for watching this video live or coming back and watching the replay. Thanks so much for being here, and I can't wait to hear your questions, thoughts, and ideas. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you next week.